Looking Forward Our Way podcast addresses today's critical issues affecting adults in Ohio. We focus on issues that affect our money and our neighborhoods. Our expert guests are here to provide the information and resources needed to address those challenges. Hi, this is Brett. Back in 1975, the Central Ohio Radio Reading Service was created. The first such agency actually started by eligible recipients. Only 2 other reading services existed in the world at the time. Now on the cusp of its 50th anniversary, the reading service, renamed VOICECorps, is serving over 120,000 people in Ohio. We're going to welcome 2 guest experts with us from VOICECorps, Mark Jividen, Executive Director of VOICECorps, and Dana Sims, who is Marketing and Development Director. Thank you both for being here.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us to be on your program today.
Thank you for having us.
Sure.
It's wonderful to meet both of you, and we are looking forward. Our way is at a remote location. We are here at the VOICECorps studio, so thanks also for accommodating us in the recording. We want to get a lot of information about VOICECorps, but before we jump into the agency's work, Mark, tell us a little bit about your background, how you found a path to VOICECorps, and then we're going to also hear from Dana.
Okay. Well, I started in broadcasting back before I got into college, but I worked for WOSU's broadcast news department, the journalism department at Ohio State. One of the fellows there was going to graduate and asked if I'd like to work or take his place at another radio station in town, which I did. And that was the North American Broadcast Stations in Columbus, and the primary station at that time was WMNI. So I started working there in 1971, and you moved up the ranks and actually retired from there about 10 or 11 years ago. But in the meantime, folks at VOICECorps, at the time it was called CORS, the Central Ohio Radio Reading Service, heard of me. I had been an industry advisor to Ohio State School of Journalism and to the Columbus City Schools broadcasting program out at Fort Hays. So I became an industry advisor in 1982 or 3 to VOICECorps. I've been on and off the board of directors since that time. About 10 years ago, the current executive director at the time wanted to retire. They created a committee of 3 people to hire a new executive director. Well, we quickly determined that we didn't know what she did, really. And so I said, "Look, fellas, I'm semi-retired, so I'll go in and just observe her." Well, the next thing I know, she was gone. I was having so much fun that I became the interim director, and then finally said, "Fellas," or I don't know, there might have been some ladies on the committee. No, there were only 2 guys. I'll just take it. So that's how I got here. So
that's not an uncommon path in nonprofit, is it, Dana?
No,
true.
Well, I've always thought that the mission here, the things we do, are very important to people. We're not quite as well known as many other nonprofits, and we're certainly not as big as they are. But I think what we do to serve those who are blind, have low vision, might have another reason or so that they can't use standard printed material. Maybe it's something like dyslexia, or they have Parkinson's disease that causes them to shake, and so they can't hold the material still enough to be able to really focus in on it. We're very busy in our service with veterans. We have a lot of veterans that have lost a limb or whatever the course may be, and so we serve a wide variety of people that just can't use standard materials.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Dana, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, VOICECorps came at the right time in my life. I have master's degree in marketing and communications, and then many decades of corporate and nonprofit marketing and communications experience in many different industries. COVID happened, and I really needed to reprioritize what mattered to me most, what was important, and really what impact I wanted to make. I've always had a spirit of advocacy for helping those that have been medically vulnerable, or even being an advocate for those who are unable to advocate for themselves. And seeing this opportunity at VOICECorps, my first conversation with Mark, I knew this is really where I wanted to be. I wanted to bring all of my years of experience, my talents, my energy into this space to uplift people that really deserve the same information equity that sighted people have every day.
Wonderful. Thank
Good.
you so much.
Now, Mark, I want to go back. So let's go back in time, probably 1974, maybe 1973. I read earlier that, VOICECorps was put together by eligible recipients. Can you talk about the creation of VOICECorps, the value it provides to the community? How did that start? I mean, you've got recipients that decided, we've got a problem here, we're going to fix it. How did it begin?
Talking books is a common term for, at the time, transcriptions, the old vinyl records. Before that, they were acetate or glass. And back in the very early 30s, there was a big push on, in part due to the end of the Depression and public works, and they started pushing the idea of talking books at the time, again on transcription records, and the building of special record players at the time to put materials onto discs so that they were accessible to people who, again, were blind, Army veterans and the like. So that had been going on for a long time. And then in the 50s, there was this phenomenon that was background music, and all of the background music that was piped into restaurants and elevators was coming by a hidden signal on FM radio stations. They called it a subcarrier. So there was a time delay for publications. If they was a new book or maybe a newspaper or a magazine, they had to be recorded and they had to be pressed onto records, and those records had to be sent out. So the blind community were not getting anything that was very timely at all. So there was 3 people here in Columbus, all blind themselves, that thought, we could use this technology for background music, and we could have a broadcast station, and we could read the newest newspapers every day in real time, so that our people didn't have to wait to hear about the news or Time magazine, or was probably Look and Life magazine in those days. So it was a perfect marriage of being able to get information equity, as we would call it today, but get timely information out to the blind community. So they went on the quest of, putting this together. They got quite a bit of support from the city of Columbus. Ohio State University's radio station cooperated with them and gave them a subcarrier, a hidden signal on their FM station at the time, and voila, VOICECorps came along. They went on the air November 17th, 1975. So we're about to begin our 50th year, which is amazing. We were, I believe, the third system in the U.S. Certainly we were the first one in Columbus, and we were the very first one to be created by, recipients of the service.
Nice.
That's I can remember the VOICECorps group from when I was growing up in Columbus and hearing this service given to individuals. And for the last few years, we've really heard more and more about how individuals are more isolated and vulnerable, particularly older folks, but I think people in general. Tell us how the development of a program like VOICECorps has helped create those connections. Individuals are not only more aware of issues in their community, but they're also aware of resources and connecting individuals to each other.
When VOICECorps, or Corps at the time, first came on, there were there was a great prevalence of blindness among young persons. There were several diseases of youth that created a rather large population. In fact, we had and still do have a large state-operated school for the blind here in Columbus. At the time, there were just many people there, many more people going to that school than there are today. Well, most of those early life diseases have been conquered, but there's many more people that as they age, not only from accidents, but war situations, but health-related situations, diabetes being the primary one that does create glaucoma, which then leads to blindness. You may see or hear advertising going on right now for new pharmaceuticals to fight what's called AMD, which is age-related macular degeneration, which is becoming a real issue among the elderly population, and there are various varieties of it. But one of the reasons for that is that people are living so long that they're outliving their eyes. And so we're seeing the population of those with vision issues becoming very much larger as the senior citizens move along in years. The point is, the audience that we serve and the audience that's most isolated these days tend to mirror the folks that are isolated because of their age. Society is somewhat different, perhaps, in the last 50 years, where there's less family support for people who are older. They end to be they perhaps can live longer by themselves. So again, all of this kind of thing contributes to isolation, and without the support groups that once were extremely valuable, and I'm talking here about church organizations and local community organizations, which seemed, some of those kinds of things have seemed to drift away over time. We just have a real problem in this growing isolation, and finally the Surgeon General just shortly after COVID had named it to be a critical health issue for the country.
All right. Dana, can you address, with your role of marketing and development director, some examples of information or resources that VOICECorps provides and has a direct impact on the clients?
Certainly. So we are able to not just provide current, local, national news in real time and give them the same information, again, that other people that are able to actually pick up and read the printed material are able to see. But something as simple as empowerment through having grocery ads read to them, where they're able to know how to shop and really engender independence in a space where they otherwise may not be able to take ownership of their own finances or be able to direct their own personal shopping. Something as simple as grocery shopping that I think some of us really may take for granted, being able to flip through an app on our phone to know, oh, I'm going to get a better deal at Kroger's than I am at Audie's this week. I definitely want to go there. That we are able to help give that information to them, but also it's entertainment. It is a friendly voice. We've had volunteers that have been reading with us for decades. They have become friends by voice to so many of our listeners. That creates a sense of community for them as well. And then, with the entertainment that we have, yes, it's news that's being read, but we also have some segments that are thinking about old-time radio. I remember sitting with my grandfather and listening to radio programs as a little girl that were able to still provide that sense of excitement, that sense of vision for those that have a visual memory. And then we're able to create programs really to provide a holistic news and information setting for people.
Yeah, that's important. Especially, it harkens back to my background in radio too. That and all of us, if you're used to listening to radio, that you tune in to certain people every morning. It's that familiar voice that, as what's quoted in a Rush song, a companion unobtrusive. That sort of thing. It's just there. It's part of your day. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I'm going to go on another path here with a question. Like any good, wonderful nonprofit organization, you normally have a small staff and a huge number of volunteers. And our shout out to all of the VOICECorps volunteers for all the wonderful work they've done, as you said, for decades. It's an important job that they probably aren't even sure how much they are contributing to the welfare of other folks. But tell us a little bit about your volunteers. What do they do? What do they provide? What do they gain from volunteering? Then they're giving all of their time and expertise, and maybe a little bit about how do you become a volunteer for VOICECorps?
Sure thing. So our volunteers have a wide range of backgrounds, from educators to lawyers, accountants, those that may not have had careers and were stay-at-home parents. So they come to us from a number of different places and spaces in their lives, and it's simple as reading. Yes, we have a small audition process, and I'm doing air quotes here because it's just making certain someone is able to speak clearly, able to read the printed word so that it comes across clear to the listeners. Obviously, we want to make sure that our listeners have the experience that they deserve and that they expect. And our volunteers want to make certain that they're able to provide that as well. So our volunteers do come from a wide range of backgrounds. And it's reading in our studio. Because of COVID, our volunteers are able to read from the comfort of their homes too, but their comfort with what they're reading, and they're able to take as much time to prepare as they'd like, just to let it flow. But one wonderful thing about VOICECorps is that we edit, and someone can have a trip over a word or two, like I'm certain I'm doing today, and all of a sudden it's perfect. So our teachers, retired teachers, sound like experts when they're reading. And what the experience means to them, why do they keep coming back, is because they know that they are adding value to someone's life. And truly, that is the reason why our volunteers are as dedicated as they are. It is not because we're able to provide anything other than a very heartfelt thanks and exceptional appreciation. It's them knowing the impact that they're making. And truly, we are always looking for volunteers when the seasons hit, and as our volunteers go on vacations, sometimes we just may need more voices, and also having a robust volunteer pool will give us a lot of opportunity to expand our programming, as we have on-demand programming, and we are looking towards the future of offerings for our listeners. The more volunteers we have, the more opportunities we have to expand what our listeners can hear. Almost 200 volunteers right now, and we record over 10,000 hours of listening material every year.
I'm going to ask a question that's off script, and so Brett can take this out if it doesn't make any sense. Dana, with the changes in technology, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, are volunteers, do they have to be Central Ohio-based, or can they be from anywhere?
They really can be anywhere.
Okay.
Because there are volunteers that certainly, if they are used to, reading the Columbus Dispatch, and they have a time that they read the Columbus Dispatch every day, we have digital versions of the Columbus Dispatch. So if someone wants to be on holiday with their toes in the sand in Florida and they still want to read, they can still do that. It's a matter of the sound quality, of course, but we want to make certain that we encourage our volunteers to think about, one, work-life balance or volunteer life balance, but then also that we want to make this accessible and not burdensome on them. So yes, we do have volunteers that are able to not be in Central Ohio. And actually, I've had people that have asked me about volunteering to be able to read from outside of the state.
We have a program that's read by a volunteer in Paris. We have one that's read by a person in Pittsburgh. And we have one that they were just talking about today. I heard in the hallway someone had not yet sent in their program from Florida that they were waiting for. So, yes, you can do that from really anywhere with technology. And speaking of technology, we are so fortunate at this time in history where most, if not many, people have computers. They have cell phones. And interestingly enough, those devices are very good recording devices. They can produce good quality material. And it can then be emailed or Dropboxed to us here in Columbus. What we have done with most of our folks, well, we certainly have told them when a volunteer comes aboard what kind of equipment they might want, and if they'd like to go buy their own microphone and headset, we have given them several different devices that we think work well with home systems. But we also provide headset mics to those that need them, and they are of great quality. Surprisingly enough, they don't cost too much, but oftentimes the volunteer will buy it on their own. But the point is, we can provide very good programming quality with the equipment that's now available out there, and at the most might have to add a good quality microphone.
I want to just add one more question about volunteers. I'm assuming that most of your volunteers are likely older because they have a more flexible schedule. But do you have opportunities that a younger person might jump in and want to do, especially somebody who's looking at going into broadcasting? Great experience.
So glad you asked that question. We actually just had a conversation amongst the staff this week, really revisiting what those opportunities and possibly, creating some programs could look like for younger people, whether it's volunteering for youth groups or, as you had mentioned, someone that could be interested in programming. What could volunteer opportunities look like, whether it's the programmatic side, operations side, or even with reading and volunteering? So I would say, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, that anyone that's interested in volunteering, we definitely want to hear from you. And we want to make certain that we're recognizing the interest and trying to find a place for all of the voices that want to be a part of our family.
Right. Great. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I think coming from the podcast world, look, my background is radio, as Mark knows. Mark and I used to work together at said radio station, WMNI, for many, many years. But I felt through the pandemic that technology and even just equipment kind of put on steroids what was available and what could happen because of the lack of, we just couldn't be together. So we had to figure out how to be apart and communicate and such. So can you address what the agency, continued to how it grew? Did it grow leaps and bounds using technology, even the programming end of it too? Did you see a change because of it, and maybe felt that looking back now, we may not have done that but we had the opportunity. We're taking lemons and making lemonade out of it. It was actually turned it into a positive growth period that may not have happened for another 5-10 years.
Well, as I mentioned a moment ago, we do have people that record at home, and prior to COVID, we only had a handful of programs that were recorded outside our studios. Where we do have 7 studios, I believe that's the count. We're in the middle of some construction here, and I can't remember what I had for breakfast. But But at any rate, none of our programming virtually was done outside the actual studios here at VOICECorps. But we learned very quickly, found very quickly the kinds of equipment and the ways that we could have material recorded at people's homes because of the isolation. We did have people that came in here. As a matter of fact, every day there are, what is it, Dana, 6 people that come in to record the Dispatch and the Wall Street Journal in teams of 2, and at that time, and that continued through COVID. But we had ultraviolet light, debacterializing machines and all kinds of things that were going on here. But by and large, we quickly skipped to an at-home kind of remote recording. And you're right, it was. I hadn't thought a lot about it, but digital technology. The advent. I mean, the iPhone's only been around since 2005 or so. So, it's not been around a very long time. And so when the need was there, we were able to adapt items that may have just come on the market. As I said, inexpensive but really good-sounding headset microphones. Became available, and we didn't sound as though our people were talking in some kind of a tube, or they sound very good. So yes, those kinds of things came along. We were able to jump to it. We did not miss a single Columbus Dispatch program when COVID hit. Everything was shut down. Everything, I say everything. Most of the country shut down on March 20th, 2020. That was the day the state closed the universities, and very shortly thereafter, most things shut down, including much of the city. But we didn't miss anything. We were on every day. We're on every day, and we even read the Dispatch live on Christmas Day. We have people that come in here and always have on New Year's Day, Thanksgiving morning. You name the holiday, they're here. Dedicated volunteers, staff that doesn't mind working the holidays, and we didn't miss anything during COVID. We're very proud of that.
Let's go a little bit. I want to but kind of tear this apart. I want to know how the sausage is made. So you talked about going live or recording. How does this stuff happen? When people read, is it recorded and then sent out, or are they doing it live, or is it a combination of both? What's the magic behind it? Let's put it that way.
Well, generally speaking, we have live capability here. Okay. There's no question about it. And as I shared earlier, beginning at 7 a.m. every morning, we start with a crew of 2 readers doing the Wall Street Journal and other business news for a full hour. At 8 o'clock, 2 more people sit down, and they're prepared with the Dispatch. They read national and international news from 8 to 9. At 9 o'clock, 2 more people sit down in the studio, and they read the obits are read at just right after the 9 o'clock hour. So you'll hear them about 9:05. And then so we're doing local and Columbus area news, lifestyle news, and that kind of thing happens then. And we continue to read the Dispatch live until 10:30. But after that, generally speaking, it's pre-recorded. We're on the air 168 hours a week, and for the convenience of the volunteers, and as Dana mentioned, the quality of the material that we do, it's all pre-recorded. We store it here on our audio servers, or folks record it at home, and they send it in to us via various methods, but it's sent here to us. Our technicians then look at that material, whether it's recorded here or recorded remotely, check the levels, do whatever QC is necessary. If there are gaps, they fix that, and get it ready to go. Most programs are in either half-hour lengths or full-hour lengths. If they're a half hour, they're actually 27 minutes and 30 seconds because we do run a couple of PSAs and the weather, after the programs. And hour-long programs are 57:30 with a couple of minutes to do the weather and IDs and perhaps make announcements for the folks that they need to hear, bulletin boards and that kind of thing. But that's how the sausage is made. We have a lot of really wonderful equipment here. We're in the middle of, well, long story short, this is the third, perhaps fourth iteration of equipment technology with cores. The cores went on the air in 1975. There was a rebuild in the 80s when they went to all transistors and other kinds of things. And we moved to this location in 1997 for another generation of equipment. And for the last, 5 to 8 years, we were holding that equipment together with Scotch tape. Many of the components, while it was good equipment, but many of the components just were no longer available. And so we've recently, and we're right in the middle of upgrading the equipment to a completely digital operation, new consoles. The whole plant is basically being renewed, and it should be good for another 20 years, we hope. And we're very grateful to being able to obtain the funds to do that, which is actually in the six-figure number. But over the last 6 years, that would be the last three state capital budget allocations, we were provided portions of the money to do this, as well as support from our local agencies, the foundations like the Columbus Foundation and others, to be able to put together enough money to be able to buy all of the equipment. And again, we've been collecting the equipment for at least a solid 2 years until we've put it all together to the point that we can actually install it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I was reviewing the website, I noticed that the programming is divided into two categories, kind of the regular schedule and a listening on demand. Is that the difference in terms of what's happening live and what you've recorded for listeners to hear later on? Or what are the differences between those two categories of programming?
Well, the nice thing about it, in listening on demand, is the old term for podcasting. We began streaming our programming and recording our programming in 2001. So by 2001, a person could use their home computer and, listen to us live. And we also had material that we recorded, and we have on our website the ability that a person can listen from there. And so that's called listening on demand. So if you go there, nearly all of the programming that we do, whether it's recorded or live, is available on our website by just clicking on it and listening. We're in the process right now, and it's a slow one, that we're moving over to a podcasting platform, so that rather than having to physically go to our website and click on something to listen to, which is convenient, it'll also be available in a podcasting format, so that a person will be able to subscribe to a favorite program, a favorite magazine, whatever it might be, that we produce, and they'll be able then to have it automatically downloaded to their cell phone or to their computer, so that they can listen to it in a podcasting kind of format. But in effect, it's the same thing. It's recorded and it's stored on somebody's server, like ours is. But the secret sauce with podcasting is that you've got a podcasting program on your phone or on your home computer that knows or goes out and finds the things that you're familiar or that you're most interested in, and it downloads them automatically for you. So that's the secret sauce.
Wonderful.
Good. So VOICECorps has an extensive list of items that it provides to listeners, the material you read. And as we came in, Mark gave us a little tour, and it's a whole room full of magazines and such. That includes like Fitness and Vogue. But does the audience help determine what's going to be read in some new materials that may be ingested? I mean, can they suggest, hey, this brand new magazine, this is really kind of cool. Can you put it on the wish list?
So we would absolutely love to hear from all of our listeners any ideas for additional programming, something that they know is out there that they would love to hear, or possibly, especially for those that are recent with losing their sight, materials that they've interacted with in the past that they just know, hey, this would be great for me, but not just for me, but for my community, for the people that are in my assisted living. So with that in mind, we do have an active listener response line and listener feedback line where we gladly take any suggestions and would go through the steps to do our due diligence to procure any necessary rights and authorizations to be able to put items on the air, but really listening to our listeners is key for that. So if we have listeners listening to this or advocates of listeners, by all means, reach out to us directly. It's not going to happen within a week, but we need to know what is wanted in order to be able to pipeline it.
Good.
Wonderful. Mark, we've touched a little bit about the equipment and software that someone would need to become a listener of VOICECorps, but let's give them some specifics. If someone calls and says, I want to listen to your programs, but I'm not tech savvy, I don't know what to do, what do I need, and how can I get up to speed?
Are you saying listening or recording for us?
No, audience, listeners.
Listeners, well, we have a live stream that is available on the website. It is also available through smart speakers. For instance, if a person wants to listen through an Alexa device, it's very simple. You just tell Alexa to play VOICECorps, and it will come up. If for some reason it doesn't, you just tell it to load the VOICECorps application, and then she'll be smart enough to know. You can always call here and we'll tell you how to do it. But it's really simple to get on the internet and listen to us in those ways. We're also available over the air within our coverage area, which, by the way, extends beyond Columbus. We cover all of Northwest Ohio. We cover all of Southeast, and Eastern Ohio. We have transmitters in Toledo, Mansfield, Columbus, Zanesville, Coshocton, Athens, and in Portsmouth. So we cover a very large area of Ohio, and what is really great about it is that we're immediately available to folks over their television, believe it or not. If you have an outside antenna, you'll find us on the TV stations as their 0.7 virtual channel. So in Columbus, we are partners with WOSU TV on Channel 34. If you go to Channel 34.7, you can receive us directly. And in the other markets, if you got a PBS station, just go there. Athens is Channel 20, Cambridge is Channel 44, and it's Channel 25 in Toledo. Just go to the 0.7 and you get us there. Now, if you're on cable, you would go to their Ohio channel. So it would be WOSU's Ohio channel, whatever it might be on your cable system. But it's called the Ohio channel, and you touch on your remote control, you touch the SAP channel, which is like they do the other languages or description, which is becoming common. But your remote control should have what's called a SAP, Secondary Audio Program Channel. And on the Ohio channel, we are the SAP, so you'll be able to get us there as well. But that's how you listen. It's really simple. Now,
let me also ask, before you had talked about cell phones and mentioned iPhone, they can have any cell phone. Is that correct? It could be Android or iPhone?
Yes, no problem. Just just bring up whatever the browser is. In the case of iPhone, that would be Safari. And you can go to our website and you'll find a Listen Live button, and you can listen from there. Now, that's the way you do that. Now, things are going to be a little bit different when we get our podcasting up, and I won't go in deeply into that. But while we don't require people to sign up to receive our programming. We desperately want people to tell us they're listening. And the reason for that is primarily makes our volunteers feel good, but our supporters, want to know what their money, how effective their money is being used, and that's become much more prevalent in the last few years. So, if we say we're broadcasting, well, how many people listen? What are you doing with my money? How effective is it? We need to be able to put before them not the full numbers of listeners, because we know we'll never know that. But anecdotally, we can say that, yes, we have Billy. She lives in Gallipolis, Ohio. She lives in Grove City. She lives in Marysville, and whatever. We wouldn't use the full name, but we'd say, and here's what she says, that she enjoys listening to, Ladies' Home Journal, every week, or she likes listening to the local Marysville newspaper, which we do read. We read the Chillicothe newspaper and a myriad of other local newspapers. So we need to know that you're there. When we get to the podcasting area, we've got some potential copyright and licensing issues there. So that's going to be requiring a sign-up. A formal sign-up. But that'll be simple. VOICECorps has been and always will be free to qualified listeners. No problem at all. But it is intended for folks who do have low vision or some other organic reason that they need to or that they want to listen to us. And that's all. That all has to do with copyright issues. As I was sharing earlier in the program the existence of talking books, pre-recorded books on tape or on vinyl. That all came about because it was intended for use by the blind and low vision, and therefore there is a rule in the national copyright laws that we get special consideration for copyright and being able to use other materials. So I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole with that. But yes, we're free for now. Let us know, please. We want to know that you're there.
Yeah. So for volunteers, is there any monetary assistance? I just think they want to read, but they maybe just can't afford a headset or some technology. Is there a little bit of help to get them over the gap to be able to do this?
Yeah, we do. We do provide. We have we have been able to procure through donations, really, a supply of headset microphones, and we can loan them. We have no ability to loan equipment, although we did when we first needed to go to remote broadcasting. We did receive a donation of 10 iPads, which were very useful. But we found out very quickly that people have their own technology at their end, but they did need the quality microphone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Good. Brett, it seems that no matter what is going on and how many questions we ask, it just flies by. Our time with our guests flies by.
We've been up to 45 minutes now.
And Mark, you know what? Brett's going to take this out, but he didn't mention that he and I have a contest going on. Who can bring most guests onto the program? And I don't know. I've always kind of been ahead, but I think he's sort of surging here with the contacts that he's bringing to the...
Well, as soon as she said, well, there's a Mark Jividen. Yes, contact him. Drop my name. I'm sure he'll want to be on the podcast.
There you
Absolutely.
go.
No problem at all, and we can do it on some regular basis. And there may be, a quid pro quo here. We do... local programming, local interview programming at 11 o'clock many days. And we'd be more than happy if you'd like to come on our program and tell folks about what you do and, why they might want to tune in or subscribe to your podcast.
We'd love to.
Wonderful.
We'd love
Absolutely.
to. Sure.
Thanks for the invitation.
Exactly.
So before we close out, we always ask our guests for their last words of wisdom. Anything that we may have forgotten to talk about, you want to make sure that the audience hears about VOICECorps, or just some thoughts on your end. And Dana, why don't you start us out?
So there are two things in particular that I think your listeners should know. VoiceCorps is so proud of our volunteer pool, and with technology changing such as it is, AI has become rampant in many spaces. It's hard to watch a reel or a video on Instagram or YouTube and not hear an AI voice. You don't hear that on VoiceCorps. And I really believe that that brings that comfort of talking to a friend into our listeners' home. And that is so very important as we have spoken about isolation and really what the value of VoiceCorps is. It's not just the material that they're hearing. It's not just the news or the ads. It is someone that is a friend that they can look forward to hearing from every day. And the second piece is knowing, as Mark had mentioned, who's listening to us. Selfishly, as marketing and development, understanding and being able to tell the very real stories of our listeners, it will help create the funding for even more opportunities for VoiceCorps to expand programs, to expand services, to provide all of the robust opportunities that technology and advances can possibly bring so that we can make the user experience, the listener experience, what it should be, and to not just keep up with the times, but outpace and to make sure that we are doing the core essence of what VoiceCorps is, and it is to bring information equity. It is to bring information to those that are unable to access physical print materials. So let us know you're listening, please.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mark, your last words of wisdom.
Well, I would just reiterate what she has just said. I retired once from the business and got this opportunity, to come to VoiceCorps, and our volunteers may have the same idea, but I'm here to make an impact. I want to make an impact in folks' lives and really help them. We'd like your support, and the volunteerism, is that it? To help us make an impact. And we appreciate all the support we get, both financially and psychologically, for those out there that support us.
Well, good. Well, many thanks to our expert guests, Mark Jividen, Executive Director of VoiceCorps, and Dana Sims, Marketing and Development Director, both joining us today. Listeners, thank you for joining us. You're going to find the contact information and resources we discussed in the podcast in our show notes, as well as on our website at lookingforwardourway.com. And we are looking forward to hearing your feedback on this or any of our other podcast episodes.
The views and opinions expressed by the experts interviewed on this podcast are their own and don't necessarily reflect the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. The information provided in these interviews is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to consult with qualified professionals for specific advice or information related to their individual circumstances. The podcast host and producers don't endorse or guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any information provided by the experts interviewed. Listener discretion is advised. The views and opinions expressed by the experts interviewed on this podcast are their own and don't necessarily reflect the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. The information provided in these interviews is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to consult with qualified professionals for specific advice or information related to their individual circumstances. The podcast host and producers don't endorse or guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any information provided by the experts interviewed. Listener discretion is advised. The views and opinions expressed by the experts interviewed on this podcast are their own and don't necessarily reflect the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. The information provided in these interviews is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to consult with qualified professionals for specific advice or information related to their individual circumstances. The podcast host and producers don't endorse or guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any information provided by the experts interviewed. Listener discretion is advised.